Taunton, I believe you have a filter turned on in the video settings. You might want to take a look.
Can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
Do you know if Adam and Eve ever had a date?
I probably don't want to know, but just tell me about it.
No, they had an apple. They had an apple. Okay, how about this one? Did you hear about the bedbugs who fell in love?
No, I didn't hear about the bedbugs who fell in love. Tell me about it.
They're getting married in the spring. Hello, everybody. This is Carnival Personnel, and I'm Jacques.
I'm Biff. I don't know why I'm here, but sure, yeah. Hey,
because
let's go.
It's the day after Valentine's Day, and I can't think of anybody I want to spend this time with but you. That's why you're here.
Of course.
Did you have a good Valentine's Day?
Valentine's, I've been married for, over a quarter of a century. And so, we have the married couple Valentine's Days. Like, yeah, what do you want for Valentine's Day? Yeah.
I've learned, I haven't been married as long as you, but I got kind of close. But I've lived with a few other women in my life. When they say that, they don't really care about Valentine's Day and you don't have to get them anything, it means they care about Valentine's Day and you have to get them something.
So the one thing about Valentine's Day is that in my homeland, Valentine's Day is a day in which the women give to the men, which is super convenient on Valentine's Day. But then, of course, Asian culture is all about kind of the reciprocating. And so March 14th is called the White Day. And the White Day is when the men have to give back to the women. So the way it works is that as a general rule, there is an exchange rate. So the guys get off super easy on Valentine's Day because they don't have to do anything. They're on the receiving end. But like if you're like, if you receive a gift from, say, your girlfriend on Valentine's Day, you're expected to give back with a gift that is worth, like, say, 10 to 20 times the value of the whatever your girlfriend gave you on Valentine's Day. So
when you say don't get me anything, you really mean don't get me
anything.
Our good friend JT will tell you, never miss an opportunity to build up some DC, some domestic credits. With us, with Valentine's Day, there was a skit on Saturday Night Live. You can find any skit on Saturday Night Live on their website, on YouTube. You can't find this one. And we saw it like 15 years ago where the whole premise was, oh, it's Valentine's Day. You can get her a bear with a heart. Nothing says I love you more than a bear with a heart. And then as the commercial went on, it extrapolates out that you can get them at a gas station and a convenience store. It's the worst, stupidest present. So on Valentine's Day every year, I get a good half dozen of these bears with a heart and just put them around. It's our ongoing thing. But
there you go.
But yeah, so Valentine's Day, and of course, we have the boys, so it's like I have to get a present for them to put in the cart that they make for mom, and
of course,
then have to get them stuff. But it was great. It was great here. So next week, I'm really excited about the sideshow that will drop next week at this time. Biff and I just spent over an hour talking with a Roblox programmer named Besh. Truly
fantastic.
It was one of my favorite ones we've done.
Very enlightening, and it's kind of like a nerdish kind of a subject, but I think it was a great description of what really happens in that, in not just in his industry, but just in, just gaming in general. It was a great conversation. It was fantastic.
And so just now, Biff has taken over controls of our Facebook page, which I will be honest, I don't know much about because I'm not on the book face, but I have been trying to be more active on Twitter. With the podcast, I should do more to get it out there as much as I can. But Twitter hasn't been that much of a fun place to be up until about 2 months ago. And so now it's better.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I should do a little bit more rather than doom scrolling for anyway, yeah. So I'm done with the doom scrolling. I think I have to, put a little more effort in.
It's funny because I was on today and I saw Bill Gates. It was a promoted ad where Bill Gates is selling his book about, what you can do to help, like, climate change. And I took the opportunity to say, well, you can try to buy Bill Gates's book, or our recent guest on the on Carnival Personnel was Dr. Salwich, and his book is free, and here's the episode. So I'm trying to do that, but at the same time, I got to figure out, which, by the way, it will be in there, but Biff is...
Isn't I gotta figure out the story of your life?
It's so true. Biff is at Biff Plays Hockey on Twitter, and I don't even know the Facebook page. I think it's...
No, it's just by name, right? So, but the Carnival Personnel is really the Facebook page,
right?
So,
and then Carnival Podcast on Twitter, or the Jacques 4. So yeah. I am trying to be more active, but I have to figure out how on Twitter to block words, just because a lot of people who I like, who I follow, can't stop talking about WandaVision before I get to see it, or can't stop talking about the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League that I think comes out in like 28 days or 29 days. And not that I don't like these people who want to follow them, they just can't keep posting. They can't help themselves and not be posting. It's like, no spoilers, but look at this picture of this bad guy that I didn't know was going to be in this cut,
So I will tell you, so like, in general, I don't really care about half of that kind of stuff, but I will say this. In general, it'd be nice if people kind of could refrain from posting stuff for, let's say, kind of maybe give it a week. Right before I start posting stuff, right?
I forget who it was. There was, maybe it was the Russo brothers with Endgame, and it was after 2 weeks they lifted the moratorium. They're like, you know what? It's been 2 weeks. You can talk about it now. But they asked people to specifically, not talk about it. What I do want to talk about is this is, I think, only one of 2 recordings we're due in February, and it is Black History Month. I will be honest, I'm pretty excited that the Harriet Tubman 20 is being fast-tracked by the Biden administration.
Absolutely.
It was to go into production in 2016, and then Mnuchin put a stop to it.
I'm shocked to hear that. Why would they do
We won't get into why. No negativity is this. I'm looking forward right now with this, but honestly, the boys and I were watching, a program talking about it, and then we watched, a mini documentary on her. And it's something that is just so long overdue. Of all the people that could be being replaced on our currency, I think
the guy whose painting was on the back of the office of the previous president, maybe, is that what you're talking about?
One of the worst human beings ever, So
maybe I wouldn't go that far, but among the presidents, maybe not, in the
So I am. I'm really excited that that's being fast tracked. Of all the things that are going on, when Biden came in and he said, I want my administration to look like, the country does look like, and and it's not a little thing, like that. That is not a little thing.
I'm not here to defend Biden, because there's a lot of people who will. There are detractors and so on, but I am really heartened by some of the positive progress, right? I mean, the people that he has, that people that he has that he has appointed, the people that he has surrounded himself with, and then, the message he's trying to send. I mean, it's easy to go ahead and go back and rag on his track record, and there are things that are worthy of questioning. I get that. But in the end, I think we're making progress, right?
Show me somebody who's in their mid-70s who hasn't said something 40 years ago that out of context. But what's amazing is how many firsts this administration has. When Yellen becomes like the Treasury Secretary, the first female, and she's like, yeah, it's great, but it's kind of sad, that I'm the first. But I don't want to detract from that. I just want to stay on that I truly am excited that the Tubman thing, that I actually thought it was something that had moved forward, and I was kind of waiting for it to come out,
Yep.
and then it didn't. But now we know why. Anyways, it is, and I really, really hope they can make it happen in the month of February.
Absolutely. Well, I guess rather than to put a timestamp on it, I'd like to see. I want to be able to hold that Harriet Tubman 20 in my hand. Right. That's really where when it comes down to
That's
it.
when it matters.
Yeah, I mean that's once it's concrete, I think that's where it to me it really has meaning. So I'm not too concerned about the kind of the symbolic timing of it as much as let's get to that point where it's in my hands.
Amen.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to get permission first from a friend of mine I'm about to give a shout out to see if we can link something to my Twitter or our Twitter and the Facebook page. But I want to
yeah,
give a shout out. Joe and I have a very, very good friend, a couple, Steve and Floor, and they have this just incredible son, Hayden, who I think he's 4. Apologize if I get the age wrong. Hayden has, come out of the gate being thrown some pretty hard curveballs. And they posted the other day, I don't know if they posted or just sent Joe and I and another one of our friends this 4-minute clip. He's had close to 20 plus surgeries. And like I said, he's just been riddled with challenges. And they did this little 4-minute clip showing him going from the struggles to walk in the different stages of walking with, different devices and aids and therapy to him walking his dog down the street. And it was one of those things that you see on Twitter with people you don't know that, it just makes that liquid like come streaming out of your eyes like
yeah.
Niagara
That's
Falls.
amazing.
And
Yep.
I honestly, I've been in the hospital and seen the kid. I've seen the pictures when he has to go on these trips to specialists in Philadelphia. As much as that kid has had curveball after curveball, I don't think I've seen a picture without a smile that starts at one ear and goes to another. And he is the most like infectiously warm and happy entity on the planet. And his parents, honestly, it's what they fight through and fight for every day. I've said it before, but there are true superheroes that live among us, and
Yep.
seeing Hayden's progress and seeing what Steve and Floor go through. I mean, it's one of those things where I have several times stopped myself from, God, I'm having a shitty day. Why doesn't this work out? And it's like, dude, the challenges that I face are just so insignificant to the challenges this little guy faces. And he faces them with just this infectious smile. So I'm going to ask if they're okay with us posting it. But I know Floor and Steve listen to the podcast, so I just want to let them know it's like it is probably the most inspiring thing that's hit close to home because I know the kid and I've seen, the progress. But when they put it in a 4-minute clip, honestly, Biff, it's just
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's when you it really makes it really is a time for self-examination for all of us, right? I mean, you know what? It's a time when I tell myself, shut the hell up with your whining, and let's let this superhero push us past all of our little, minor, challenges and roadblocks. I mean, I think you said a great, you did a great job of describing it. It really is, about people like him inspiring the rest of us, to be better, to do better, to work harder. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
we did lose a hero this week. The great Larry Flint is no longer with us. Larry Flint's health has taken a turn for the worst, which on one hand, it gives you another new impression to do. On the other hand, dude, I really thought he was dead. Like he hasn't been in the news in a long time, and it's like, oh, he's not already dead?
First of all, I didn't know that you could use great and Larry Flint in the same sentence without another adjective being in there in between. But that's just me. I mean, okay, can we just move on?
No, he's a First Amendment hero. I mean,
Yeah,
found the
yeah,
Supreme Court.
whatever.
Look. Honestly, my my childhood, my formative years were made a lot better by his product, and I'm happy to say, he's up there with the Angels right now, or at least Hugh Hefner somewhere. Look, I don't want to make it the Joe Biden is the greatest thing ever show, but did have it on the rundown that 200 million more doses of the vaccination has been secured, which, like the Harriet Tubman 20, man, that's great news. Two, how hasn't that been lined up already?
Well, listen, there's going to come a point where we have, and I think this happens with every administration, right? I mean, the current administration is going to have issues with whatever the previous administration left them. And so this is just yet another example. But what I do like is there is a sense of cohesion there. Certainly, Dr. Fauci's responses since the inauguration has been very different. And, he's been courteous about it, but we clearly see where he stands. And so I just want to get to a point where we see that the federal government is really leading the charge, and not just pushing it out to the local governments. They have a challenge because the initial plan had pushed everything out locally, and to some degree, they may have to take back the reins. I don't know what the answer is, but I do know that I am encouraged by the level of activity that the federal government is exhibiting in terms of dealing with this pandemic.
It's gone from the doom of, oh my gosh, we're losing 100 people a day to 200 people a day to, thousands a day. And now the news cycle, it's still happening. It's still awful. We have a long way to go and a short time to get there. Now that song's playing in my head. But as of last week, I think last Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we had 3 consecutive days of 2 million people vaccinated in the country. And when
the numbers are the numbers, and I think one of the challenges that we've seen this, people have a hard time understanding the numbers, right? But so I think where this administration will really be able to demonstrate success is really seeing how things really truly start to open up, and because things are opening up in somewhat of an arbitrary manner right now, and we'll see what the outcome of that will end up being. But I think that having a kind of a national direction to try to manage this will help. Granted that they can't do everything, and they're not allowed to do everything, and this is how this country is built. So I get that. But just as a general rule, let's see if we do kind of see things really change for everyone in terms of opening up, and all of those things that we're struggling with right now.
I mean, when he said 100 vaccinations in 100 million vaccinations in 100 day, people said it's not possible. Now they're thinking you might do 150. My thing is, I know we got a long way to go. I'm really hoping to be out actually in the room you're recording now. I hope I'm spending some time there come August. Like, I'm hoping that part of the summer COVID is at a place that I'll feel comfortable putting, the boys in the car and doing another cross-country trip. And if we have, 250 million vaccinated by then, is that enough? I don't know, but trending in the right way.
Yeah. So and let me know when you're coming to LA so that I can plan my trip to New York.
Good, more room for me. So my biggest accomplishment this week is management and I finished watching The Boys on Amazon Prime, and I don't know if that's come across your plate yet. It's season 2, and season 1 was good. Season 1 was good.
Just keep talking, because you know what? I'm watching Japanese girls rock on YouTube exclusively. So just keep talking.
It's if the Justice League were owned by Jeff Bezos, kind of thing. It was in season 2 was a really, really hard watch, and we were ready to jump off, but there's 8 episodes or 9 episodes, and after episode 3 or 4, we're like, well, let's just see how it turns out, and it turns out great. The other thing in TV news that I want to talk about is some shakeups over at Disney or Disney Plus. I guess other than Grogu maybe not being on The Mandalorian next season, I hear there's some other cast shakeups.
Yeah, apparently, just some of the stuff that it really goes back to. There are some people who need to watch that 10-minute segment put out by Herm Edwards. I know maybe you're not a fan because he's a former Jets coach, but his "Don't Press Send" speech to the NFL rookies is really something that really should be extended to a lot of other people. And once again, this was a quick case of "Don't press send." And I take it you're talking about Gina Carano at this point.
I am, and look, it's amazing that on one hand you got Pedro Pascal, who has just been this champion of everything on the right side of humanity. He has his sister, who he's been incredibly supportive of. He has a trans woman, sister. I hope I'm saying that right. But going back a few months, he put him next to his Twitter handle, and on Twitter, she's like, "What the hell's that all about?" And he explained it, and she was like, "Yeah, that's stupid. I'm not doing it." That's one of those Herm Edward things. It's like, you're entitled to that opinion. Maybe pick up the phone and call him or talk to him about the set, but maybe not put it out there that you're going to blatantly say, "Oh, inclusion and recognition means something to a group of people there that I'm not part of." Fuck that.
Yeah, listen. We'll end up talking for the rest of the podcast, and maybe this is a sideshow that we need to have with somebody more qualified than we are. But the bottom line is that tweets like that, to me, are really driven by a form of hate.
Yes.
And
yes.
And when it comes down to it, if you're punished for your hate, for your expression of hate, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's like, we talk. A lot of people are especially now are talking about these fluffy words like unity and reconciliation. You know what? It's really the hate that has to leave. And so a person, maybe losing their job for their super public expression of hate, I know to what degree. I mean, why should I feel sorry about that? I mean,
no. And what I thought was funny is the people who are out there pushing the hate agenda. Nobody's silent. What I love is, how come I have to keep hearing from these people how much they're being silenced? Because you seem to be able to get your message out there of hate,
right?
And wait, so you're telling me I'm a festering bag of shit, and I press mute so I don't hear you telling me I'm a festering bag of shit, and you're mad because I'm pressing mute because I don't want to hear it. And I love how there was that hashtag that went around like cancel Disney Plus, on Twitter, that they were trying to get trending. And I guess she signed a production deal to produce and star in her own productions, which is a dream come true. And she signed that production deal with like Ben Shapiro, who I think does a podcast not much bigger than ours out of his mom's basement. It's like, yeah, you're going from Disney Plus. Anything down from Disney Plus is a drop off. Don't try to sell this as a good opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
yeah. And while we're talking Disney Plus, I'm surprised with all the, on one hand, the parks are all shut worldwide and all this stuff, but they've made up the difference in Disney Plus. And the fourth quarter, the numbers just came out the other day. Disney actually turned a profit. I think they're the highest subscription, like, streaming service. They have like 95 million.
Why wouldn't they be, right? I mean, and to their credit, to their credit, I mean, they, in terms of material, they have great material, but I will say, and I'm going to cut you off a little bit here, but one of the things that did happen is that as part of their acquisition of everything, they bought a studio called Blue Sky, which is known for, they're really, I think, best known for Ice Age, but Blue Sky will be closing their doors. I have a friend from hockey that is works for Blue Sky as he does kind of the animation, special effects kind of stuff, and it's really I'm not an industry insider, but it is kind of disheartening to see a lot of this happen. One of the things that same friend posted a while back was that the special effects company that won an Oscar for The Life of Pi, by the time the Oscar was given out, that company had shut down because
wow.
It's because part of it is money, right? But part of it is that these studios are bottom line driven to a point where they want to get, they essentially want to cut down on the costs wherever they can. So there's great talent in this country, there's great talent in North America, but they want to ship it out to offshore resources to cut costs and stuff like that. So those end up being a little bit disheartening.
Well, speaking about shipping offshores, I actually reached out to Biff this past week, and I said, "Hey, Biff, I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to grow, I'm trying to become a better person. So could we use the opportunity of getting together every couple Fridays and you drop some knowledge on us about the language from the homeland?"
Yeah. So aside from like say food products and things that might appear on adult websites, you probably know very little about the Japanese language, as you mentioned. Let me start off by just real basic words. Like there's the Japanese word for this morning is kesa. Can you say kesa?
Kesa.
Yep. So that's it's a basic concept, right? This morning kesa, I did something. I did something this morning, kesa. So maybe you'll do some certain things every morning. So every morning is mayasa. So can you say mayasa?
Mayasa.
Okay. Now can you say kesa again?
Kesa.
And can you say mayasa?
Mayasa.
Now can you say this morning every morning?
Would that be kesa mayasa?
I'm not gonna fucking kiss your ass, you fucking asshole.
Is that the actual translation?
Those are actual legit words. Actually, I have to give credit to one of my high school classmates who actually taught it to me, and we used to say this expression all the time. Where whenever there was something that was giving us consternation, we will say this morning every morning, and we all knew that translates to kesa mayasa. But
no, it's of all the things to start with that, because I said to Biff, I'm like, can we learn Japanese words that are not dirty, that sound dirty? When we lived in the country, Qatar, the Amir's sister, who's this fantastic philanthropist, she has built the Louvre of the Middle East, this amazing museum, in Doha. She created the Doha Film Institute. She's always in Forbes as like one of the 100 most influential women. Her name is Sheikha Mayasa. And every time I go to introduce, I will tell people, it's like, okay, I want you to say it 4 or 5 times before you say it to somebody else and get the giggles out. Let's get the giggles out now before I actually walk you into this room to have a meeting where her name's going to come up.
I mean, I don't know if it's an unusual or a common Indian name, but I came across an Indian name where the last name is Rakshit, and I'm thinking, okay, sounds like Ratchet, but okay, I'm sorry.
And it's funny when we were just talking about inclusion and putting he, she, or, he, him in your Twitter handles and stuff. I actually am trying to grow. And as much as I love walking into the locker room at F&H and saying to our friend Guitar Center Scotty, hey, what's a Japanese word for bukkake? And just every single time he puts his head down and just shakes like, oh, do I have to go through like you with my opening jokes? But I am all seriousness. I'm trying, and I won't get there, but at least I'm trying to be a better person. I started a couple weeks ago a little club with a few stand-up people like myself who can't, are amateur stand-ups who can't get out to open mics. And, we're rehearsing our materials and helping each other's punch up the jokes. A few of the people have been guests on this podcast. Our friend Sam, who's the expert on all the DC CW shows. Our friend Jenna, who is an amazing author. Joe was in it. And I'm trying to work out this bit where I talk about my mother-in-law, who I absolutely loved. One of the fun things about my mother-in-law is, she met my wife's father, who I never met him, but I guess he sounds like everybody else in the movie The Departed, Will Hunting, who taught my wife's mother English when they met in Seoul, Korea, which gave the world the greatest broken Asian accent Boston. And everyone's like, oh my God, you got to do that. And so I'm working out the bits. Like, I explained that. I'm like, and I'd love to do that voice for you right now. And as I start to do it, I'm like, but I would cancel myself if I had, I said, it's one thing to say, oh, it's cool. My wife's Korean. I can get away with it. If you look like this, no, you can't. So you're just going to have to imagine like Matt Damon and Jackie Chan reading something together. We're trying to work that out. But no, I want Biff to come every week prepared with a kissa mayasa. Am I saying it right? Kessa.
Kessa. Mayasa.
Like almost like the rapper Kessa.
Okay. I am.
Yes. No.
I am old, and I don't listen to hip hop. So
Kessa mayasa. And what else is going on in the homeland these days, Biff?
Last time I revealed that This Week in Crime in Japan, and I have a choice of 3. And I don't know if did you look at the link that I sent you?
I love, like last episode or 2 episodes ago on the regular one, when Biff was going on about, okay, this crime they thought warranted a full reenactment. So I'm watching a couple of the clips and I'm thinking, I know animation has gotten quicker and cheaper, but the levels that they're going to show what I assume is a reverse pickpocketer, like the guy putting notes into purses.
That is correct. So we'll go with that is an actual 33-year-old man that was arrested for stalking. And so what he would do is he would actually slip in notes, unbeknownst to these young women, leaving his line ID and basically saying, and it literally translates to, if it's not too inconvenient for you, please contact me. And then he would leave his line, the app line ID in there, in hopes of getting them to contact. But in some cases, he kind of followed them a little too long, and some women noticed it, and he was reported. And then upon review of surveillance cameras and whatnot, they decided, this guy was stalking, so he got arrested.
I mean, how many women are we talking about that he pulled this little stunt with?
I actually, this has been going on since 2019, so it's kind of in the order of like 20-ish people that that this has been happening with. But the thing about it, there's kind of 2 parts to it. Number one, the level of stalking is following plus slipping in notes, which obviously is horrible, right? But the fact that he got arrested for it, and the fact that this is like essentially on that day, this made top 3 on the Fuji Network News's website as the most accessed, most reviewed news story of that day. So yeah,
so many questions. First one, what was the success rate? Like, are there any women who's like, I
know you'll be shocked to hear this, but it seems like the success rate was 0.
Because
Shocking.
It's one of those things where you can, and I've had buddies who had the confidence to do this, can walk right up into a bar and walk up to each and every woman's like, hi, my name's Patrick. You want to go home and fuck? And you're talking a lot of drinks thrown in his face, a few slaps, and a few, let's do this. I like your confidence, But this, on the other hand, is like, who would look at that note and think, well, when did he put it in my bag? How long is he following me? Do I know him? How it would scare me. It's like, I'm going to use the line from Groucho Marx. I refuse to take part in a club that would have somebody like me as a member.
Yeah, right. I mean, I guess the bottom line is, though, like, so for one thing, it's not funny, but I've actually known of stalker incidents where both, a combination of people that I actually know ended up turned out being stalkers, and also friends of mine being victims of stalkers. But I guess ultimately in the end, I don't understand the psychology of the people where they think that this behavior will lead them to this person thinking that I want to spend time with that person, right? So that's the part that I
mean, in this dude's head, does some chick like that? They end up hooking up. They end up having a relationship, and then someday their little kid says, "Papa, how did you and Mama meet?" I saw her. I followed her for several city blocks, and then I didn't have the courage to talk to her.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's one thing for the children growing up who's like, yeah, I met your dad on the casual encounter section of Craigslist, and hey, things worked out.
Sure. Yeah.
So I would like to post. Like, I don't even know how to post those links, but we should definitely post those links.
Well, I'll post it. You know what? Once you post the episode, I'll post a retweet with the link, and then with the explanation, and obviously people will not necessarily be able to understand the news story, but it's like, yeah. And
the
I'm
video's
post
great.
a couple other...
The video I got, I just couldn't tell exactly what was happening, but I love the fact that they had a reenactment. They had the CGI reenactment, and then they had the woman on the street interview. Now, were they talking to actual women who it happened to, or were they just randomly asking people?
No. So there was at least one woman that they talked to who was was the lucky recipient, right? But I do have two other articles that I did post. So we'll go ahead and say, we'll call these the things that didn't make the podcast. But yeah, the other two are, so just quickly, one of them is kind of a road rage driver with a creep factor, and so I'll just leave it at that. The second one,
did he start?
We'll just leave it at that, okay. Right? And I'll just post it on the Twitter, right? And then
reenactment.
There's not. You don't need a reenactment because the victims videotaped the whole encounter. Okay. So there is this creep factor on it. So I'll put a little bit of a narrative on it, and then the second one that missed the podcast is the story about a gentleman who robbed a convenience store, which is not that unusual. But the funny part is that he happened to choose the convenience store that is attached to the building that he lives in. So
I'm lazy. I'll say I'm lazy, but.
I'm just saying that, it just puts the word convenience store, it's just a new level of convenience that, it's applying to that term.
Is he a Japanese gentleman who thinks
everything is Japanese is crime in Japan?
thinks everybody looks the same over there, so they won't notice him? Is he one of those people? I don't know. Like, how do you think you're going to get away with this?
And so I think the difference between the U.S. and Japan is that despite the fact that people that look like you seem to think that people that look like me all look the same, people in Japan that essentially commit crimes tend to get caught.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, does that guy have that perspective? Does he have the round-eyed asshole Westerners view that, oh, yeah, we do all look the same, I'm going to get away with this? Or does he have the Clark Kent Superman thing? Is he home watching Superman thinking,
no.
Oh, all I have to do is put on this pair of glasses and no one's going to tell it's me?
No. Look. Basically, it's just bad planning, right? Criminals get caught because of bad planning. This is just one of them.
This Crime Wave in Japan segment, I am a huge fan of because, like I said, it was fun to watch the reenactments. And I'm sitting there thinking, how much money did this news organization put into this whole CGI?
Bottom line is that they have to tell a story. They have to tell a story, Jacques, and the stories are important.
So I don't want to dwell on the awful. We'll talk about some of the awful stuff here. So this week is the second impeachment of the former occupant of the White House. And honestly, I'm just going to quickly, I did not know, and we have a really good friend who's a prominent lawyer, and we're going to have to get him on. I did not know that a jury can comprise of co-conspirators. I did not know that until this case. I didn't know that, oh, wait a minute, you can drive the getaway car and be part of the jury pool. That's because honestly, I truly mean this. 1/3 of the GOP should be on trial. At least 1/3. There's only a handful of people who've come out and said, you know what? This is really bad. It's bad for the country. It's bad. And some of the people that I'm listening to, some of the talking heads, I listen to the BBC a lot when I go to bed at night. Sometimes I just look. I like British voices, and it's always nice to get a different perspective. And when the eyes of the world are saying, are they really going to let this happen? I mean, is this really okay there? And I want to scream, no, it's not. It's just a very small group of people who make it seem like it's okay. But
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, listen, you say that, and the fact of the matter is, this is part of the process, right? I mean, the reason why it's like this is because impeachment specifically is not like your regular, trial, right? So I get that. But in the end, do these people, I mean, the fact that they look, bad outside the U.S., I mean, do they even care? Probably not.
No, they don't.
Right?
They don't.
Right?
They don't.
Right. So, I mean, so all of that stuff is almost sadly mute. I think the real question to me is that I guess I don't understand what's in the head of people who think that what happened on January 6th is like not horrible. It is really one of the most horrible things that I have seen domestically in this country in terms of something that is self-inflicted. Okay, so not Las Vegas shooting bad, not Parkland bad, but it could have been potentially that bad, right? I mean, the casualty numbers were bad, but not Las Vegas bad.
No, they're not Las Vegas bad. They're not the Pulse nightclub bad. So,
but
by the total of death, it's not as bad. Yes, but the thing is, it's who called the code red. That's what's bad, and the fact that where these marching orders came from, and who was part of putting this coup together, and the fact that the coup is still trying to overthrow democracy. That's the thing that's awful. It's like, what was interesting about the presentation, and gosh bless them, it's like these House managers who are trying this case. If this was a real case, it would have been over already. They would have already said no mas and not got off the map. Yeah. What I liked, which was awful, and I shouldn't like it, but one of the interesting things they showed in real time, and we knew we'd see it eventually, the body cam footage and the security footage from the Capitol. This is what was happening while this is what was being tweeted. This is what was happening while this is what was being said. In real time, you're seeing how it was egged on and encouraged. What I wish the House managers would do, or would have done, and I think it's too late because they're not calling any witnesses. All the people in this past summer who are GOP people, and I don't even want to mention their name, they're screaming about NFL players kneeling. And this is what you said about somebody kneeling, and yet this is what you're saying about people hanging Confederate flag in the Capitol. This is what you were saying about Black Lives Matter's protest. And this is what this was your Blue Lives Matter take this past summer, but yet, 12 Capitol Police have either died, been seriously wounded for life, or, have been disabled. Like, we're not going down the list of it, but I wish the House impeachment manager said, okay, Mr. Whatever, this is what you were saying about Blue Lives Matter. Here's a Capitol policeman beaten with a flag pole with a flag still on it. How do you look at this and say, yeah, I'm okay? And the thing, I think it was Ted Lieu. I think Ted Lieu from your beloved Hawaii.
Yep.
Said
no. Ted Lieu's a California guy.
Is he California?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought he was Hawaii.
Yeah.
But Ted Lieu had said he's not afraid of the former guy. He doesn't want to bar the former guy from running again because he's afraid he's going to win. He wants to bar the other guy from running because he's afraid he's going to lose, because if he loses, he's going to incite this again. His whole life, that gentleman, that festering piece of shit, has When he didn't win an Emmy for his reality show, said it was rigged. When he lost Iowa caucus, said it was rigged. Before the 2016 election, he said if he didn't win, it was rigged. So no matter if he's allowed to run, his fan base will do this again. It's one of those things, if you let him slide on this, he will do it again. And I don't think there's a sane, rational person who doesn't say, yeah, I think you're right.
And and I do want to briefly go back to the point that you made in terms of the jury work with the defense. I think one of the things that was really disheartening is Congress person tweeting that they felt that they were not in any danger, and their office is next to AOC's office. But then you look back at their Twitter feed on that day, and then say, security issues has me evacuated from my office to this outside. So this person who on the insurrection day tweets out that, oh my God, I had to leave my office because of security concerns, now come back and say, oh yeah, I wasn't in any danger at all. Yeah, you weren't in any danger because somebody bailed you out before you were actually in real danger.
So we know there was a couple Capitol Police who were in on it, taking selfies in this, who have been relieved of duty. A couple of them killed themselves, and I have a feeling they probably killed themselves because they knew they're going to be going to the Gray Bar Hotel. Like, evidence is going to come out.
I mean, we don't know, but let's not speculate on that.
But right? I will say there was several heroes. For every one asshole, that place was filled with heroes. Goodman, the officer. Well, it turns out he was a hero a couple times that day.
Absolutely.
So we all know the footage where he gets the horde to follow him. But there was also other footage that just came out, and it was Capitol footage, like security footage from the cameras all over the Capitol. Mitt Romney was running towards the crowd, and he's running away, and he grabs Mitt Romney and just tells him around, to turn him around. It's like, and that's why, and maybe that's why Mitt Romney is being a human being and saying, look, we're causing this. We're making this worse. But that got Goodman, honestly.
I mean, I don't want to give Romney too much credit because he did vote for impeachment last time, right? I mean, he was the breakaway guy, right? But in the end, he did say that I look forward to thanking him when I see him, right? I mean, certainly going back to Goodman, obviously somebody who really needs to be recognized, and this is the kind of the disheartening thing, right? Like, he's not recognized by the person who was the sitting president at the time for acting in this heroic manner, because obviously, guess what? This guy was probably doing something that wasn't helping that sitting president's cause.
This Goodwin, it's like
absolutely
to see it twice.
Absolutely.
So we'll move on from that awful. I think it's going to be safe to say this next clip, which is a self-indulgent theater from the Carnival Personnel's vault, featuring our beloved Joe. I haven't decided which one, right? But it's always a highlight. I'm not sure which one this is going to be. I can just guarantee this will be the best 3 minutes of the podcast, and probably the best 3 minutes of my life. Maybe that's a self-indulgent theater, and if so, enjoy the self-indulgent theater, or this is all being edited out.
Let's just talk for 2 hours straight and then not have any record of it. Genius. What an idiot.
Shut up, Richard.
No, wait, it's got to be your bowl. I mean, you have derailed. Shut up, Richard. Boy, I'm at a loss for words. Look, what he's trying to say is our brake pads are really awesome. Now, let's just say you're driving along, tired in the road. Whoa, that was close. Now let's see what would happen if you used one of the other guy's brake pads. You're driving along. Kids are yelling in the back, Daddy, we want to go home. Shut up. Truck tire. I can't stop. Oh, I'm on fire. Meat wagon pulls up. Woo, woo. Coroner comes out. Oh, my God. New guy in the back's puking. All because you wanted to save a couple of bucks. Now, don't you think? Get out. Now. Do you validate?
prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
I won't elaborate as much as you might think I would. I will say I'm very happy for Tom Brady. I I love when the greatest.
Okay, so you know what? Just you've talked enough about Brady, so let me talk a little bit from the
Please,
standpoint of, and the reason why I say this is because number one, one of the things I will say about Tom Brady is that I don't understand the hate and the disrespect that he the that he gets. I expect, everybody in the AFC East to maybe, hate him in a certain way, maybe some of the rivals fans to hate him in a certain way, but if you look at how he's treated in contrast to how, Joe Montana was treated, that's the part that I don't get, because all of the stuff that they say about Brady in terms of, oh yeah, his arm's not that good, and Montana's arm is, right. I mean, so I think in one way, so there is something about his personality, I guess, or something that sets people off in a negative way. To me, I mean, this is the one thing about it is that it still blows my mind that people still question him as anything but the greatest quarterback in the Super Bowl era. And I qualify it only because I can't speak for the, what happened prior to the Super Bowl era. But, I told you when Tom Brady won his 5th Super Bowl that this, in my mind, clearly makes him the greatest quarterback in the Super Bowl, that I know. And obviously he's won a couple of Super Bowls after that. So, I think that's where I start. And the other funny thing is that you should look up the ESPN footage of Stephen A. Smith walking by one of his coworkers who bet on KC, lost a bet, and had to come in wearing a clown suit. So I don't know if you've seen this.
No, I will look. Look,
Yeah.
it's a couple things. When you say in the Super Bowl era, right? No, we didn't see Otto Graham play and all those people play in the 30s, 40s. It was a different sport. It's truly, you can't compare Milt Schmidt, to Sidney Crosby.
Right.
Completely different. You can just say there was nobody from that era that dominated as long. Jim Brown 100% dominated for the 9 years that he played. I mean, 9 years that Jim Brown played, he was just dominating.
I mean, I think the difference is,
dominance.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's not the years or anything as much as like, I think without me being there, even if it was only 9 years, right? The level of dominance, all that stuff, I can't put a context into it, right? I couldn't have seen what was happening at that time and then see what I've seen firsthand right now and compare apples to apples. And this is not a knock on Tom Brady at all, as much as to say I don't think either one of us is qualified to say that.
The football world lost, a great Marty Schottenheimer, who's been a staple. I will tell you, he's somebody who always got a bad knock. He was always a bridesmaid. He had a decent career as a player.
Yep.
He had a really good, career as a coach. But he was one of those guys where he would finish first in the conference, first in the division, out in the first round, time again.
Well, I think he had a great chance in this one phase with 2 cast-off superstars when he coached the Kansas City Chiefs, and he had both Joe Montana and Marcus Allen, I think, on the same team. But I just remember, and I always liked Marty Schottenheimer from the standpoint of, this was a guy who, he wasn't a BS guy. And it kind of, I kind of rooted for him from the standpoint of he's that kind of the sad guy that comes close, but just doesn't quite make it.
Right.
You kind of root for him,
So I was at his last NFL game as a coach, and truly,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Well, and I remember it, and I've talked about it before on the podcast. It was 2006, and it was the second round of the playoffs. So the Patriots had to play a wild card game, and then they come out to San Diego. San Diego was 14-2, and this was Sean Merriman's either rookie year or his second year.
Yep.
14-2. they are not manhandling the Patriots, but it's a slugfest. I would have to go back and look at the score. Either way, the Patriots were down by 4 points, under 2 minutes left, and it was 4th and forever. It was literally 4th and 12 from their own 40. And Brady throws a pick.
Yep.
It's over. It's literally, if the ball hits the ground, it's over. The guy who picked it off, if he steps out of bound, it's over. If the guy picks it off and goes to the ground and gets touched, it's over. But he tried to run it back.
Yep.
Got stripped. Stripped. Yep. Oh, I'm blanking on the guy's name. It's Brown. And 2 plays later, it's in the back of the end zone. Yep. And then it's like, oh, Martin Schottenheimer can't win the big game. It's like, oh, my God, he won the game. He literally won that game, except for the fact that a bonehead cornerback had to be the man, had to make the pick and run it back. And I did. As a Patriots fan, I loved it. But looking back, and then when I was, reading up on him when I saw he passed away the other day, I was like, oh, that was his last game? I mean, he did win a championship with the short-lived, oh my God, I think I wrote it down. I remember that football league in like 2010, 11, and 12. It wasn't
AFL.
No, it wasn't the it was
XFL.
It wasn't the XFL. It was like the United States League or something that.
Yeah, right. Okay.
It lasted like 3 years. He won a championship. Players liked him. The media liked him. He was a good coach. He's in the Kansas City Chiefs Hall of Fame. He coached for 20 years. it's one of those things. It's like, hey, Charles Barkley's not that good. He never won a championship. What?
Listen. Look, at any given time, right? So for the last however many years, 1 out of 30 team gets to win the championship, right? So from that standpoint, it's a hard road, right? I mean, people kind of forget that. And so, I mean, obviously that makes the Patriots, accomplishments amazing, as is any other team that have won these multiple Super Bowls, during this time. But, it is so hard to, in any league where you have 30 teams, or whether it's 20 teams, now 30, whatever the case may be, the odds, if you look at it, it's pretty tough.
The amazing thing, again, about the Pats or any team that has longevity in this era, when the Canadians did it in the 50s and in the 60s, and when the Yankees had all those, there was no free agency. They owned your rights forever. There was no leaving teams or,
Yankees is one thing, because not only did they not have free agency, but, everybody wanted to play for the Yankees. And then the Canadians had a separate advantage, because they had control over essentially the entirety of French Canada. So no French Canadian could go to another team without being rejected by the Canadians first, right? So there's these other, so like if that rule still persisted, hey, guess what? Mario Lemieux is a Canadian. Gilbert Perreault is a Canadian. Raymond Bourque is a Canadian.
Dion,
right. All those guys are Canadians, right? So I mean, so you talk about, if you look at it just strictly in terms of numbers, right? If you look at the Canadians streak, the Canadians went to the finals for 10 straight years. 10 straight years that they were in the finals.
In a 6-team league, yes. But the same thing with the Celtics. Look, I'm not just saying that about Montreal. When the Celtics won 8 championships in a row, 8 in a row, 10 and 11 years, unbelievable. I think it was an 8-team league. So let's move on to video games. I have nothing to add in video games, except next week we have a full sideshow with a video game producer.
Wait, before we go to the video games, could I super quickly
please take all the time you want?
No. I just want to talk about, there's a little bit of a mess with COVID and hockey.
Oh,
right?
Yes, please go ahead.
Right. And so we've had some cancellations in the NHL. Don't care about the NHL cancellations. What I do care about is the cancellation, of the Isabel Cup, I believe it's called, the NWHL championship ended up being canceled because of COVID protocols, which is super disappointing.
You got me following that, and it was amazing to watch how much they were posting and the clips very vibrantly. They ended up having, I forget how many thousands, like going into they were in a bubble though. What happened?
Well, they weren't in a true bubble in the way NHL was. So, um, in the end, on the teams, whether it be coaches or players, we're kind of interacting with non-bubble people, people. But I mean, that's its own thing. It was a challenging situation, and it's the reason why I'm just really disheartened by this is because this year, NBC Sports was going to show the
Yes.
playoffs,
Oh,
and so they were going to get that national exposure, and that was canceled. And that to me was really disappointing. And then there was another secondary non-COVID related aspect that was really disheartening, which was this battle between this website that I don't want to mention, but let's just say it might be something that you might sit on if you were in a drinking establishment, and the NWHL. And a couple of years back, you kind of spoke briefly about how this company sponsored a towel during the Boston Bruins playoffs, and how that created a ruckus. And there was this internal struggle where the Metro Riveters were being had connections to this website, were somewhat being sponsored by this website, and players were promoting this website at the same time. People within the league, including the league commissioner herself, is basically speaking out, saying that the misogynistic content of this website doesn't align with our values. And so there was this inner struggle within the league. And so it was one of those situations where it came to head was the CEO of this website, who happens to be a woman, posted this website, basically kind of doing this highlight of kind of like this almost a victimhood things to kind of rag on what the NWHL was doing, which was followed by all of the followers of this website bashing the NWHL, saying they should be kissing down to this website for giving them the exposure. And ultimately, I want to highlight one player named Saroya Tinker, who is a Canadian of African descent, that spoke out about this, despite the fact that her team was openly courting this website. But I really want this to be, kind of cleaned up by next year. And I'm not putting it on NWHL, and I am not going to rag on the website either, because I know that they've done a lot of good. I know that they've done a lot to help, especially the restaurant industry. I know they have a fundraiser to help the restaurant industry. So I'm not trying to demonize this website, despite the fact that I personally will not give them any of my clicks or my money or anything. But ultimately, I want this separation to be clean, and I don't want the NWHL to be hurt for it, because I think it is an important league, for women and for girls.
yeah. I don't know what the not true bubble is. I was looking forward to that. They were up at Lake Placid, I believe.
Right. They were at
So,
the yep.
do you think before we move on to video, just I'll ask quickly, do you think the NHL goes to a bubble for the playoffs?
Yeah, I think that's going to happen, only because as we're seeing now, we're seeing postponements of games.
Yeah, the Bruins
And
had 2 games postponed last week because of the Sabres outbreak.
Right, Sabres. I mean, Vegas, Minnesota, Buffalo. As a result, Buffalo actually was very unhappy about how they got to their protocol, because possibly it came as a result of the New Jersey infection. So just considering all of these things coming in, unless every player and every official is vaccinated prior to the playoffs starting, I think that they'll end up being in a bubble.
And we'll see if Tuukka Rask will join the Bruins if they go.
Well, and I'll say this: the one thing that might be helpful this time around is that they've already done isolated play, right? Because the way they're doing it, the playoffs are going to be so. So from that standpoint, maybe that'll help, but we'll see.
So,
Yeah.
video game, I have nothing to add this week except, again, next week's show is a side
Right.
show that's all about the other side of the games, the programming side of the games, and I'm psyched about that. And maybe next podcast I'll have a review of the Oculus because my oldest guy got that, and I do want to play Beat Saber. I'll admit I want to put on my Jedi outfit and play Beat Saber. I don't feel any shame or remorse throwing that out there because I think anybody who knows me would say I'm a liar if I said otherwise. So
Okay.
I'm looking forward to that. Are you watching anything, Biff? You got any recommendations for the fine folks?
Well, this is an old one, but on Netflix, I'm watching Demon Slayer, which is an anime series. And I started watching it a couple years back with my son, and then it just something happened, and then I stopped watching it. But to give you a sense of Demons, I don't know, I don't have a context in terms of how big it is in this country, but Demon Slayer is a monster in Japan to a point where they broke box office records this past summer in the middle of a pandemic. So Demon Slayer is an absolute monster in Japan, and I'm watching the series, and so to some degree it's formulaic. The Japanese storyline typically has the convergence of genius and hard work. It's kind of different from the American one, where it's a guy with no talent with hard work that succeeds, that makes the story. But in the Japanese context, it's very common to have the talented guy, but also the hard work to essentially achieve greatness. And this part of the story is that, but there's a lot of great storylines on it. Pretty graphic, so not really recommended for kids under 12, maybe. But I think the story is fantastic. The animation is fantastic, and I personally watch it in Japanese, so I don't have.
You do answer my question before I was going to ask. Is it subtitled in English, or do they have it voiceover?
Netflix has all the options, so you could watch it dubbed, you could watch it subtitled, or whatever. Subtitled is, I mean, in general, I subtitled stuff is distracting, but I just watch it in Japanese, and it's kind of
So on the U.S. Netflix, it has the
that's
option to watch.
Yep.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yep. Speaking of,
so what are you watching?
When you said old, a couple, last week, I'm scrolling, and I don't know how it works in your house. Well, I know how it works in your house. I know who calls the shots. Same as who calls the shots at my house. And there's maybe 4 or 5 shows we're watching together, and then there's 4 or 5 shows that I want to watch, but then when management sees it, it's like, oh, I was going to watch that too. Wait for me to watch it, which means I'm going to get to watch it in 2 years. So I'm kind of limited sometimes what I can watch. And so I'm just scrolling down HBO Max like last week, and I'm like, oh, I never saw this movie. And I like Will Ferrell a lot. And I'm like, you know what? What the fuck? I literally had a couple hours. And so I watched The Other Guys, which came out like 10, 12 years ago.
Don't remember it.
Okay.
Okay.
Samuel L. Jackson and The Rock are super cops, like over the top, super cops who end up getting killed in the first like 10, 15 minutes. And then there's 2 groups of people who are trying to fill that gap. Will Ferrell, who's partnered with Mark Wahlberg, and Mark Wahlberg is this angry guy who wants to be a super cop, and Will Ferrell just loves paperwork and doesn't even want to, leave the desk. And then it's the other people who are their competition is Rob Riggle, and I'm blanking on who his partner is, but it's another. Oh, I see him. Not who created the show in Living Color.
One of the Wayans brothers.
Yes, and so they're the other cops, and they're good cops. So Will Ferrell wants to be a desk cop. He's very, very quiet. And it had so many running jokes through it, like the most beautiful, women in the world, like literally the most beautiful, throw themselves at him. And Mark Wahlberg can't believe it. It's a really awesome bat movie, but it's supposed to be a bat movie. You know what I mean? I mean, it is funny. And then, because you like this, you might like this. And I'm like, gosh, I don't even remember the movie. And again, it's 10, 12 years old. 30 minutes or less, stars Jesse Eisenberg, Danny McBride.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Dude, everything he does is fucking awesome. Like everything. everything. And it doesn't matter if it's the Royal Gemstones, if it's East Down and Bound, if it's Tropic Thunder, and this is one of those movies where it's 90%, 85% predictable. He plays the same character, but he plays it so fucking well. So I've been watching these 10, 12-year-old movies. Highly recommend it. They're just, you're not watching Citizen Kane. You're not watching, All the President's Men. But it was with all the tense stuff. Like I said, the wife and I just finished off The Boys on Amazon Prime. It was nice to have just fluff, things blowing up, stupid, funny dialogue. It was great. I highly recommend both of those. I watched the English version, just to be clear. I watched the English version. With Japanese subtitles, but
lovely. Lovely.
And what is your parenting tip?
My parenting tip is to make sure your child eats the same stuff that you do. And the context of that is that my wife is your classic American meat and potatoes, eater. So she doesn't like the exotic stuff. I've actually developed my child to eat the wacky stuff. And so today I had a meeting at noon, but there's this kind of a well-known food truck called the Kogi truck, Kogi truck. And so the food type people will know this truck because it is a kind of a groundbreaking food truck. But they were parked today at a new location, not too far away from us. So I told the son, "Hey, the Kogi truck is in La Crescenta," and he goes, "Oh, okay, I'll go get it." And said, "Yeah, that sounds like a great idea." So so by having a child that eats what I do, I'm able to have him get me the Kogi truck goodness, and that's what I say. Train your children to eat what you eat.
That's that. I've done that, where me and the boys are very.
Yeah, but you eat Morningstar Farms.
Yeah, but it's great. And actually, the oldest guy has got into trying to cook and get into baking. He's been making these Beyond Meat burgers, these hamburgers.
Yep. Those are good. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you how good his burgers are, and I mean this, and you might really appreciate this. I don't use any condiments, and I'm a big condiment freak.
Yep.
And the and when management came home the other day, and I told her you could have knocked her over with a feather. I mean, he really is getting into it, and it's great. No, I get. So my parenting tip is, it doesn't matter where your parenting tip comes from. Don't be afraid to take it from a different source. So we're in lockdown. Our boys do remote learning. Our whole town does remote learning. It's snow. We had a real snowstorm. So we really don't leave the house much at all. And so it's funny. I was talking to management about, our oldest kid can't spend his whole life going from his bedroom to the kitchen and back, maybe to the living room, but that's his whole, circle. I mean, he might, if you had,
I really appreciate that because like where I live, it was freaking, it never got out of the 60s today.
You're such a dick. But if he had an Apple Watch on counting his steps, there are some days I don't think he does 500 steps, and because he can only play games on the weekend, which he would then have to go down the stairs. So management had told me, it's like, in Ready Player One, the kid set his game so he was on one of these unidirectional treadmills. It's like, he couldn't start the game until he was on the treadmill for so long.
Nice.
And we have a treadmill, so we told him, it's like, look, there's no gym class. He's not an athlete, but there's not only is there no gym class, you're not going from math class to science class and having to go up a flight of steps or down a hallway or get off the bus and walk from the bus to the front door of the school. So here's what we're going to do from now on. For every 2.5 hours you play, you got to walk, for 30 minutes on this. And
that's cool.
And you got to at least do 1.5 miles. So you can't do
that's
it.
Cool.
So that's our thing. And honestly, the idea came from, Ready Player One. So
yeah, it works, right? It works.
So I think this is the first episode I almost finished without mentioning All-Star Tommy. I'm actually going down the list and I'm reading the guidelines and the binders set forth on this day. And
you know why? Because we didn't rehash the GameStop stuff, and we really should be giving him more credit for explaining everything about that stuff.
It's funny because I've thought about that. I think our friend John is the only one who can come on the podcast without having to clear it with HR. I mean it. Like I have a friend who works.
He is the HR.
I have a friend who works for the New Jersey Devils, and she's like, yeah, I just have to clear it with HR. My friend over at Warner Brothers, he's like, well, yeah, I would just have to clear it with HR. My friend John, who works at Apple, same thing. They're like, well, if we talk about this or this, or if we just use this name, and I don't, but I would love to have All-Star on to explain, okay, I love Elizabeth Warren. She's putting this bill forward. I don't understand it. Can you dumb it down so I get
right.
it? But we can't say, oh, this is our friend Tom, who we can just say, he went to the safety school Yale. He's a semi-okay defenseman, and but Biff, thank you for indulging me these last couple hours. A big shout out again, as always, to Joe, who we had a 20-minute FaceTime with him, like on FaceTime, my laptop facing the mixer, which I've been using for the last 4 podcasts, but for some reason I couldn't get work. And the patience that he has with me, between sticking on with Bashir for the sideshow, with the Indulgent Theater, thank you as always, Joe. But Biff, thank you for indulging me, and I'll leave you the final word.
Yeah, don't forget.
Scratch tickets are for me. Lend me a duck and I'll win big. I'll win you a house. I'll win you a home. Give me $1 or I'll rip your bum. Megabucks, mass millions. The lottery just ain't for me. Megabucks, mass millions. The lottery ain't my cup of tea. Scratch tickets are for me. Give me $1 and I'll win big. I'll win you a house. I'll win you a home. Give me $1 or I'll rip your mom. Megabucks, mass millions. The lottery ain't for me. Megabucks, mass millions. The lottery ain't my cup of tea.
Don't quit your day jobs! Don't quit your day jobs!